Well, good morning. It is September the 8th, 2025, and straight from the highly caffeinated studio, this is According to Willie B, and I am your host for the next half hour. So today, I want to talk to you about Danville, Virginia. Now, I've mentioned Danville in a few episodes, but I've never just really done a whole episode, a whole podcast on Danville. And I kind of had some things uncovered this weekend while I was in Danville, and I thought, you know what? This is absolutely a great podcast subject. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. I also told you that we're going to have a segment every week that is called Travel Myths versus Truths. So I'm going to give you the question, and then at the end of the podcast, I'll tell you whether it's a truth or a myth. The statement goes like this: you have to book your travel way in advance in order to get any discounts. Is it a myth or is it a truth? Stay tuned to the end of the show to find out. You might be surprised. So Danville, Virginia, I already knew from filming some episodes of Culinary Highway that it is full of history. I'm actually started working about a month ago to start filming a documentary on Danville. And I know you're thinking, why? If you haven't been to Danville, Virginia, or even if you haven't been, let's say in the last year, you would be very surprised at what's going on over there. I don't know what's coming to Danville. I'm sure that there are some powers that be that do know what is slated to come to Danville or things that their projects that they're working on to bring to Danville. But I can tell you, just looking on the outside and an outsider, there's something coming to Danville bigger than what's already there, because they wouldn't be building the infrastructure, some of the projects on the riverfront. Those, you wouldn't see projects of that magnitude if something bigger wasn't coming. I had a conversation with somebody on Facebook the other day through a Facebook group, and one of the many Facebook groups I'm part of. And he said, well, Danville doesn't have a Wegmans or a Publix or, a larger grocery store. And I said, well, just hold tight, because I'm quite sure that there's one coming. I would venture to say that they will have a larger grocery store within the next 2 to 3 years, if not sooner. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a dive, if you will, into Danville's history, and I think we can uncover some, let's call it clues, if you will, of what is to come in Danville and why. So, Danville was officially named back in 1792. Now, that's just a skosh before I was born, just a skosh. They were a key tobacco and textile center. They were the final capital of the Confederacy. They were, unfortunately, the site of many violent civil rights protests in 1963. They were the prominent Civil War location, and they had, taken over 6 of their tobacco factories, and it became the Confederacy's largest prison compound. So after the war, Danville boomed. So you see, we had all this negative, we had all these bad things going on in Danville. And then, because they were already thriving, bad things came, they rebounded, and they boomed, basically, as the tobacco and mill town, cotton mills, different woolen fabrics, etc. They just became a tobacco and textile mecca in Virginia and in the United States. So you see, if you take all that, they were booming, They had negativity. They came back with more negativity, and now here they. If we fast forward to today, you see a lot of the. If you go downtown, you'll see a lot of the buildings, old textile buildings, tobacco warehouses, etc., around the River District that right now are sitting vacant. I assure you that those are not going to sit vacant forever. You can already see that they are growing and thriving, and they are focused on renewal and growth. They already have, today's generation already sees that Danville has had a reputation of rebounding, and that is what they're focused on, and that's what they're striving to build again, is a more modern and thriving entertainment and industrial area for Virginia. So, Danville was chosen for the first site of the home for disabled soldiers, and now it's the head of the VA healthcare system is there. So it's that's when I tell you that they have some sights in mind. They have, I guess, if you will, they have a plan. Okay, and I think it's more than a plan. They see something in the future that is attractive about Danville, and they are being very methodical at selling that. They are reinventing themselves as they're revitalizing downtown. They now have that Riverwalk Trail, and let me tell you, that is cool in itself. Maybe it doesn't have the vibe of the Riverwalk in San Antonio with all the restaurants, but if I'm telling you, just wait and see, because I can see something like this coming to Danville. I will tell you, because on Saturday I had to walk off my lunch, so we went and walked on the Riverwalk Trail, and they have wild geese running around, and there was a goose that I don't know if he didn't like the path I was taking, or what the issue was, but he just stood there and stared me down like I owed him money. And I wasn't going to stand there long enough to figure out what his plan was. I just diverted and went around him, way around him, because those geese, man, they'll call in reinforcement. But the way he just stood there and stared me down, I was just like, I don't know what he's thinking, but I don't like it. Not that I was scared of him, but I wasn't gonna test. I wasn't gonna test him either. He seemed pretty firm. He seemed pretty confident in standing his ground, and I allowed him to have it. So, but you've got the Riverwalk. You've got the area downtown where they have a farmers market. They have outdoor concerts. The riverfront area in downtown Danville is just an amazing place to spend an afternoon. You can take a stroll through downtown. I mean, there's all kind of shops, and the buildings down there, they just tell a story themselves. You could just look at the architecture of the homes and the different industrial buildings downtown, and you could just walk through there and just relive the story of Danville, of all the things that have taken place in that downtown area. And Danville is doing a great job of figuring out how they can sell that to other industries. So they're working on trying to attract other industries, because they are pretty well connected with the Research Triangle here in North Carolina. And so they're working on bringing in some business. They brought in, I don't say they brought in, but Caesars Entertainment come in. You're like, okay, yeah, I wondered how long before you were going to get to the casino. But it's just more than the casino that's bringing in people. If you go down to the Riverfront District, you see some of the most massive undertaking and projects down there, and some of the buildings and different things that they have down there. It's amazing. So they wouldn't be building things like that if more things weren't coming. But Caesars Entertainment, they're more than just a casino. They've got conference center, they've got They've got a huge hotel. They've got this theater where they do live concerts and stuff. And I mean, it's just, that alone draws in people. But, Danville has the river. So you've got kayaking and fishing. You've got any kind of outdoor activity surrounding that river that you could possibly want. And it's just amazing. And the people I have met in the last year, since I've been filming episodes over there, I have met some of the nicest people. I'm telling you, and they have quickly become friends. And it's amazing now when I go to Danville that I can't really go anywhere that someone doesn't see me and recognize me and say hello. And so I absolutely love that. They have supported the Culinary Highway channel more than I could ever even dreamed of, almost as much as Gainesville has. And but Danville has a lot going on for it. It's you've got the restaurants. I mean, I could spend a whole podcast telling you about the restaurants that they have. I'm going to name you just a few. And I'm not just naming off some restaurants. I'm about to name you off probably a good dozen restaurants that I have personally eaten at. And the food is absolutely phenomenal. If I lived in Danville, I would be 600 pounds. I kid you not, because the food over there, I don't know. They've got some really good cooks over there, I'm telling you. So here's a rundown. And this is, like I said, this is not all of them. This is just what I've gotten to so far. And I'm still working my way, going to try them all. But there's King Crop Kitchen, Me's Burgers, Corner Cafe, 1010 Restaurant, Schoolfield Restaurant, the Cotton at Riverside. And that's actually in an old textile building. So I would say it's almost like sometimes you're eating with the ghost and, the spirits of the past textile. I wonder if they're kind of hanging in the rafters watching you eat. Or maybe they're judging me how I eat. Anyway, but you've got the Cotton at Riverside, which looks over the river. You got the Rustic Barn. You got Captain Cook. You've got Frank's Italian. Oh man, that's some good Italian food. If you want a good cup of coffee, there's Crema and Vine. So now, if you want to know about that name, they have coffee and wine, so they can wake you up in the morning and help you wind down in the afternoon. No pun intended. There's Danville Restaurant. There's Nana Karen's, or Nana Karen's. I'm sorry. I always say Nana because of Italian, but it's Nana Karen's. And that is literally, I would say, a third of the locally owned restaurants in Danville, at least that I know of. And it's amazing food. It's amazing people that are hardworking people running these restaurants, running these local businesses. They have mini golf. I mean, people say, well, Danville's just not there. You got mini golf. I live in Garner. We don't have mini golf. You got fishing and kayaking. I live in Garner. I don't have fishing. Well, I got fishing, not right here, but down, a few exits down. I got kayaking. They got 2 golf courses. I mean, you can go kayaking. The list just goes on of all the things that there is to do. And they have the Daniel Memorial Park. They have a baseball stadium, the Otterbots baseball stadium. And I mean, it's just, it's amazing how many things that they have to offer, and there's so much more coming. They have a museum of fine arts and history. I mentioned the farmers market. It's actually in an area downtown called the Crossing at the at the river. And they have local farmers markets, and they had one this Saturday. And I've been to other local, little farmers markets in small towns, and I absolutely love them. And, I did an episode on the one in Clayton on Culinary Highway, and I thought they had a lot. They have this in an open air building. And I mean, I think we were there for about 3 hours, and And I still didn't get to see everything because by the time we got there, some of the vendors were starting to close up because it was getting late in the afternoon. But man, oh man, and just anything you could possibly imagine was in that that little market, that little where they had every kind of local artisan around the area, from fresh produce to things carved out of seashells. I mean, it's just my mind just boggles at the things that I saw. And I actually filmed as much of it as I can. I actually ran out of memory on my phone filming so much. And I plan on making an episode of Culinary Highway out of that. But it was absolutely unreal. I had never been to a local artisans market that was that big. And they have them all the time. They have Christmas markets in the fall, winter markets. They have different markets every weekend. I mean, it's just insanity how much stuff that they have. But I truly believe that Danville is an up and coming town. And I believe it's going to be one that is definitely going to make your list of places to travel or to visit. It's like Fredericksburg, Virginia. That has become a tourist destination. I've done an episode on that. And you wouldn't think, when you look at it on the map, you think, well, there's no way I could spend a whole day there, much less a whole weekend. Let me tell you, I believe Danville, within the next 10 years, will be a place that you could go to and spend not only a whole weekend there and still not be able to do everything. It is, I mean, there's a college there. There's all kind of shopping around town. I mean, they've got your mega box stores. They've got independent different stores and stuff. I mean, there's everything you can imagine. The people of the town believe in the town. Now, why do I say this? Well, there's some people there that I have befriended, and I don't have their permission to mention their name, so I'm not going to, but I will say this. There's been some very special people that I have met that have their own little community thing going on that supports different, I guess, incentives, I guess, if you will. And they are truly invested, and they're on social media constantly, probably almost as much or more than I am, of promoting their incentive, their program in that town. I've seen a lot of towns where the Chamber of Commerce pushes the growth. They have another tourism group in Danville called SOSI. So you can actually find them on the web, sosi.com. That is SOSI.com. If you don't believe what I tell you about how much Danville has to offer, go look up sosi.com. SOSI.com. Go check them out. I promise you're going to be like, wow. And I don't even know if they cover everything that I'm covering. But there's a lot on there, because I spent just this morning, I spent about 30 minutes on their website. I didn't even know it existed. And it was just because I wanted to get some of the history of Danville out into this podcast. And I'm like, I don't have all the history in my brain. Trust me, if I did, it would have leaked out by now anyway. But there's so much history there. And they embrace their history, good or bad, and they are choosing to move forward, use it as a foundation, use it as a stepping stone, if you will, to build that next level of Danville. And I think what we're going to see in Danville in the next, I'm going to say 5 years, because, building things take time. It takes time for the handshakes and the permits and stuff to happen. But I believe in the next 5 years, you are not going to recognize Danville when it comes to the Danville that you knew prior. I don't believe that Danville will ever lose their roots. As long as the people are still there that are true Danville people that have been born and raised in that area, as long as they stay there, I believe you are going to see a town that is really worth visiting, worth driving to, worth going out of the way for, if nothing else, to see what they have, but to also meet the people. If you're not a local when you get there, you will definitely feel like a local by the time you leave. I that's not some slogan that they have. That's just something that I have experienced myself. And I felt that experience long before I started filming Culinary Highway. Now, once I started doing Culinary Highway, of course, people started recognizing me for that. They would see the videos, they see me come into town, and sometimes I'd have my Culinary Highway shirt on, so of course they recognize me. But now I could just go in plain clothes, and I get recognized all the time, and they're always wanting to know what I think about my current visit versus my last visit. The people are excited to see the growth and the change that is coming to their town. Now, why do I say that? I'll tell you why. There's a town, and I'm going to mention the name. And if this comes back to bite me, I'm okay with it because it's the truth. I'm not going to tell you anything that's not the truth. There's a small town in Texas, and it's called Jasper, Texas. Now, this town is basically we're known for logging and pulpwood, stuff like that. And they may be known for some other things back in, the 1900s. I don't know, before I was born. But I will tell you that there was a lot of, and some people are going to recognize this statement, there was a lot of old money there. And some people are going to be like, what do you mean by that? So what I mean by old money is people that were born and raised there, been there for 50, 60 years. They didn't want to see their town grow. So they would do everything that they could. They would be on the city planning board. They would be all up in the city government, and they would deny outside businesses coming in because they didn't want the town to grow. They didn't want to lose that small town feel that they had. And I used to think about that, and I kind of agreed with, well, I can understand you don't want to lose your small town feel. But here's a town right here in Virginia, Danville, Virginia, that is doing exactly what they feared. They are raising their town up, building it bigger and better, having more things to offer visitors and tourism, and still maintaining that small town vibe. I kid you not. If you don't believe me, go visit Danville, Virginia, and I promise you a couple of things. Number one, you will be treated with kindness. Number two, you will be well fed. I cannot, and that really should have been number one, but I promise you, you will not leave there hungry. Them people know how to put out the portions. I have not eaten anywhere that the portion was not bigger than even my eyes, because sometimes my eyes are bigger than my stomach when I sit down to eat. But man, there's I don't care how hungry I am, I still struggle to eat everything that's on my plate when I go to Danville. And the food is just an absolute joy to see so much creativity and so much, and they're not cutting corners. And I mean, they're doing things the right way. And I'm talking about these restaurants as a whole, not just one. I'm not saying there's just one little restaurant. Oh, this restaurant's doing really good. No, there are so many restaurants there that are doing a phenomenal job at what they're doing. And the restaurant business as a mom and pop owner is not an easy task, not in today's times. I don't think it ever has been easy, but it's definitely not easy now. So I hope that this little insight to Danville has sparked a notion into your travel budget that maybe in the near future, if you're headed somewhere that direction, that you would stop in at Danville, Virginia, and check out what all they have to offer, because I promise you, it is so much, and it is such a charming little town. Make sure you drive through the downtown area and check out all the buildings. It is an absolute history book. right before your eyes. So to answer your travel versus myth, so the question was, or the statement was, you have to book months in advance to get any kind of discounts. That is not true. That is an absolute myth. Now, it can be a double edged sword. You could miss out on getting a certain travel that you want. But to get a discount, sometimes I have found that with airlines that you could book early and you get one price, and then you get within a month of your trip and all of a sudden you realize the price has dropped. You could even get to the few days before your flight and its prices drop. Same thing on a resort, same thing on a hotel. It all depends on the different criteria that's going on that particular time period, whether it be some kind of festival or whatever it is. So it's not always true that you have to book early to get a good discount, but you have to book early to make sure that you get the trip, the different exact flights that you want, exact hotels, etc., because they could book up and fill up. But for the discount part of it, that is a myth. So there you go. That is your myth on the travel myths versus on the travel. I made the whole podcast without a word salad and right here at the end every time. So that was your travel myths versus truth for today. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. We are 17 days away from the big Niagara trip. I cannot wait to come back here and tell you all about that. It is going to be absolutely insane. And I have a very special surprise, and I am not letting the cat out of the bag on this one until I come back here and tell you about it in a few weeks. But we had something come through today that we have been trying to get for so long, and it came through today. We were so excited, but I will not let the cat out of the bag right yet. I will wait and hold that surprise up my sleeve until we come back from the trip, and I will share that with you. Until I see you again next week, do not forget to caffeinate and conquer, and have a great day. Bye-bye.